Oh, we're good.
One morning, about 6 months after our trip down the Continental Divide, Sean and I took a ride in the mountains near where we lived. We stopped at a diner for breakfast, and he asked how my journey for truth was going. And when I told him everything that I had been learning, he laughed out loud and admitted science didn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to explaining how the universe or life came to exist. And to be honest, I was pissed when I heard him say this. Where was this guy months ago when he kickstarted my existential crisis with his demands for evidence that God exists? I asked how things were going for him, and he told me that during our ride down the Continental Divide, he was hitting the end of a divorce, which I didn't know about at the time. But that things were better, and he had moved on and was in love again. And I couldn't help myself. I just blurted out, love isn't real. It's just evolutionary chemicals in our brain to drive us to procreate and spread our genes. Our friendship grew through all this. And it dawned on me that I was getting a ringside seat to watch another person wrestling with his own existence, trying to reconcile his worldview with the realities inside of him, just as I was. Although I began this journey feeling very alone, the more I shared about it with other people and asked them questions and heard their stories and thought process, the more I realized I was actually joining a community of sojourners who they just weren't content with the answers they had been given. They weren't content with the rat race of their lives or the goals that society had established for them. And although we started from different points and are traveling different paths, we're all looking for answers to the same big questions of life. We're all looking for meaning and wisdom in how to best live out our one short life. As for me at this point, only two worldviews count for everything. We either believe in a natural explanation of our origins, a Big Bang and abiogenesis, or we believe in a supernatural explanation, a creator. I was trying to nail down a completely natural, scientific explanation of the Big Bang without relying on a miracle for the mysterious appearance of that first particle. But I was beginning to give in. We have no logical, scientific explanation for the mysterious appearance of that first particle, nor do we have an explanation for the mysterious appearance and disappearance of the catalyst that ignited it and caused the universe to come into being. But the data does seem to point towards one thing. To me, the most logical explanation of the catalyst for the universe is that it was outside of nature, or supernatural. But I had more questions. I also wanted to know how life began, because knowing how we came to exist would shed light on why we exist. All the science seemed to say that non-living matter existed first, and then life emerged from it. This natural process of abiogenesis looked like it was going to be the answer to my question, but I wanted to see the facts for myself. I'd already been disappointed in the answers science provided about our best origin theories, so I wanted to see for myself what the science did and did not know about how life came into being. So I dug in. So here's the top 4 most accepted theories on Earth. Number one, the primordial soup theory, or the O'Parent Haldane theory, that a soup of organic molecules arranged themselves and eventually produced life. Number two is the RNA world hypothesis. Over long passages of time, RNA evolved into DNA, eventually becoming living cells. Number three is the thermodynamic dissipation theory. Matter was driven by some unknown energy source to organize itself and produce life. And last is panspermia theory, that living molecules were brought to Earth from somewhere else in the universe. Now, do some digging and you'll see that these theories are also missing some unknown catalyst. First, let me address the panspermia theory. The Fermi paradox lays out the main problem of this theory, and it's this: if evolution has the capability to create intelligent life out of non-living matter, then where is everybody else in the universe? Now, on the other theories, I read a lot of optimistic articles out there, but in over 100 years of research by the best minds on Earth, nothing as complex as a fully functioning, self-replicating, living cell has ever been created from non-living matter.
Hello, I'm Julia Child. I'm in my own kitchen today and I'm boiling up some primordial soup. Recipe for the chemical building blocks of life.
It didn't take long to realize that the first three theories, time was a magic wand. When given enough time, and then you fill in the blanks, the universe will create itself out of nothing. Life will emerge from non-living molecules. Why isn't abiogenesis happening now? Especially when we have intelligent beings on Earth trying to help it happen. With all of our research, you'd think we'd be getting closer to understanding how life emerged from non-living matter. But Stephen Meyer, philosopher of science, says what we're learning has created more challenges to our theories. Physicist Paul Davies makes this analogy. He says, what we know about making a living cell is like taking on the task of creating another New York City, and all we've figured out how to do is make a brick. Now let me add, this is funny, let me add one more thing that I never learned in school. Ever heard of the Penrose number? It's the definitive number that represents the odds of the universe coming into existence in a way that would produce and support life. Mathematician and physicist Roger Penrose formulated this equation, and to his credit, he was friends and colleagues with Stephen Hawking, and they worked on the Big Bang Theory together. He also won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2020, so this guy's the real deal. And here's the thing. He says that the odds are so astronomically small that this universe could exist and produce and sustain life, you'd have to write down a 1 followed by more zeros than there are atoms in the entire known universe.
Here's a real eye-popper. Roger Penrose of Oxford University has estimated that the odds of the initial low entropy state of the early universe obtaining by chance alone is 1 chance out of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123, a number which is so incomprehensible that to call it astronomical would be a wild understatement. And the examples of fine-tuning are so diverse and so numerous that they are unlikely to disappear with any future advance of physics. The fine-tuning is here to stay and requires some sort of explanation.
So I looked back over everything I had learned, and I noticed all these explanations had something unique in common. Number one, there's no evidence of a natural catalyst that caused the universe to exist. And the second is, there's no evidence of a natural catalyst for abiogenesis. So no natural thing activated non-living matter to produce life. So everything we know about our existence can be wrapped up in 2 worldviews. We either believe our origins are 100% natural, or they're not. So let me break that down. If our origins are 100% natural, then we have two more choices. We can, number one, admit that a natural origin theory contradicts the laws of nature, or the laws of nature are inconsistent. Number two, we can admit an evidence that doesn't exist, or that might exist in the future, maybe. Now, this also applies to the sim theory. If we are a sim with a human creator, all of our questions are moved further up the chain. How did that creator, how did he or she come to exist? Ultimately, this doesn't resolve anything. Number two, the only other possibility is that our origin is due to a catalyst that is outside of nature, or supernatural. Now, this also presents two more choices. Number one, we can admit we don't truly exist, but we live in a sim created by a being who's not human, who lives in a realm outside of nature. Or we can admit we are real humans who live on a real planet in a real universe created by a real supernatural being. My conclusion? Looking beyond nature would be a necessary task to understand our origins. In the end, I'm surprised to say this, but the idea of a sim didn't seem outrageous. If this is a sim created by a non-human being who lives outside of our nature or our reality, it's very similar to the idea of monotheism, or a belief that a God created our existence. The only difference is that we don't really exist. We don't live in the reality that we think we are in. We're just part of the programming. But with the idea of a God, we do physically exist in reality. And for both of these, I'll address them more in the next episode, because I believe there are tests to determine which of these is more true. I had to admit that the supernatural explanation of the universe and of life was more logical than a completely natural process. There were just too many contradictions for any natural origin theory. But no matter how I looked at the data, a supernatural theory was outside the study of science and hard evidence. But if the catalyst of everything did exist outside nature, it would always be outside the reaches of science. And in the end, if a supernatural creator of the universe and of life is the answer to our big questions, this becomes the beginning to a whole new set of big questions for my journey. How are we supposed to know which God is God? What does this God want with us or for us? And those questions I'll be addressing in the next few episodes. But I was quickly coming to believe I needed a shift in my process. Because our best theories kept contradicting our best tool for determining truth, the scientific method, we needed to rely on different tools for this kind of journey. So join me in the next episode as I follow a very clear breadcrumb trail of evidence to discover which of these worldviews is more consistent with our experience as humans, is more consistent with the evidence, and which one is more consistent with itself or not contradicting itself. The next leg of the journey is a look into human beings, because I believe that inside of us there's enough evidence to answer many of these big remaining questions about life. Not only will it shed some light on how we came to exist, but it will also offer a breadcrumb trail of clues to help us know why we exist. And out of that, we can determine the meaning and the purpose of our one short life.
Everybody here's got somebody to lean